Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Raceface.Pro. My name is Stephen Koenig, and joining me in the box is the one, the only, the legendary, and we got him from the hills, the Sasquatch, Cameron de Bastos. Cameron, welcome to Zolder. Well, welcome back to Zolder, because you were racing here last night against the same competitors we're going to be watching this evening.
That is correct, Stephen. And as I can tell you, the skills out on this track is insane. The track is an awesome track, but the skills level of these drivers are just on another level.
And now Zolder, a very difficult circuit that can either make or break your race, and the guys are going to have to figure out how it's all going to work. Lots of chicanes. We see drive-through penalties do get incurred. Hour and 20 minutes. What's going to be the game plan, especially heading into the corners that I tend to worry about is Eerste, which is turn 1, where you can run out rather wide. We've seen guys go 3 wide there. The Villeneuve chicane, along with Jackie Xbox, being the main concerns for me, because you can quite easily land it in the dirt. Is there any other corners that you feel around Zolder that may be a make or break for a lot of these drivers?
Well, Stephen, the corners you mentioned are quite tricky areas, but corners to also be very aware of is that second corner, which is very tricky if you don't get the car to hook up properly and turn in. And then, of course, that very famous first chicane where cars are known to get what we call rocket ship status if you just hit the curb incorrect, and can ruin your race or even your lap. So being able to line up a car lap for lap to hit the apex perfectly is going to require some focus, which can have a very massive strain on the focus of the drivers.
Well, let's head over to qualifying, where our drivers are currently out. And gotta say, pretty stacked field tonight. We're sitting at 40 cars, but we should tell the story of why there's 40 cars currently out on the circuit. And, well, Cameron, since it's your second time in the box, I'm going to let you do that and actually let everyone know why we have 40 cars out on the track.
So, Stephen, we decided, due to the smaller grids that we are currently experiencing, to combine all the different classes together for Pro and Pro-Am, which will definitely add a more in-depth view of the different skill levels, and also showcase a very nice light on the up-and-coming talent that is currently out there on the circuit, which will also provide some very close racing and make it more enticing for not just the drivers having to showcase the skills, but also for the viewers to finally be able to cheer on their favorite racer, which hasn't been a case in previous years. We were only focused on the pro drivers. So this will definitely make it much more enticing for the newer viewers.
Well, that's it. Having our Pro-Am, and our Am drivers all together on the circuit, which is generally only happening in the Endurance Series, now getting moved over to this. You had it last night, trying to carve your way through traffic with different paces out there. What's going to be the mentality for a lot of the drivers going with this hour and 20 minutes race that's coming up, and having such a wide array of driver skill levels to play with?
Well, probably coming from me, a lot of the fellow drivers are going to laugh a bit, but it's more about patience. It's a very narrow and very windy track, Zolder, so do not force your way past anybody else. Be patient, get your time. If you do have to stick your nose up on the inside, be cautious of where you decide to make that move. Very few places that I like to do it is, for example, the final hairpin going onto the final back straight. And then be careful of where you decide to do the overtakes. Be wise, and it will come back and you will benefit from it.
Now, it's going to be a very, very interesting one. That pit entry, also very interesting, because you can actually dummy a person into going into the pits or missing out the pit stop if they're closely behind. So let's take a look at the grid as it stands. Daniel Rowe out in first place. Kabelo Matsumai out in second place. So KB doing a very good job there. Bago Krobler down in third. Fourth place, Paul Fenter. He's looking to have a bit of fun. Paul Pinky Toe Fenter, hoping that it's a little bit better than last night. He actually had a disconnect right at the end of qualifying, which then he had to start in the pits, and that's why he had a two-stopper on the system. But Meanwhile, back on the farmyard, he only did one stop, but had to start in the pit, so made up some time. His chance to get into the top 3 is going to be a bit of a difficult one ahead. Mahath Musa putting in a great time. He's currently lying in 3rd place, so moving his way through. Sean LaRue is out there. Kirian Rayner, Kerry Van Zale, Grant Sebastian, Tinian Kube, Eric Kirstein, Jason McGregor out in that Honda. Peter Meyer going and having a bit of fun. Actually got a livery on him, which is quite finally get to see the livery. Not just a solid black car. Ian Upton as well. Good to see him out on the circuit. Looking to try and improve his run. Daniel the Hitman de Villiers, your teammate, looking to improve his time around the circuit. And had quite a difficult race last night, trying to get away from this man over here, Tyler Humphreys of Angry Racing, doing a phenomenal job to keep under pressure. Then you've got Richard van Heerde, Jaco Kutzer, Vessel Wooder is out on the circuit, Sanjan Pillay, Keegan Sanderson, along with Charles Darden, Jonathan Chrysler, Kerry Duplessis, Darren Miller, Alan Patterson is out there. Oh boy, team manager out on the circuit, and you watching. It's going to be you got some explaining to do there. Rob van der Heerde, Altman Buerta, Graham Moll, Mario Senecal, along with Daniel Bourne, a new name that we don't get to see too often. John Ray Buerta, who was actually in the grandstand supporting Altman Buerta last night. Arno Kraus, Gerard Pretorius, Tianas Buerta, and Loic Randabel rounding out our field tonight. Going to be an interesting one, but so far the time's coming in thick and fast. A 1:28.025 being the best lap time on the board, set by Daniel Rowe. Bago Krobler trying to come back at him with a 1:28.060. And you know exactly how hard it is to get into those 26s. We did, 28s. We did see a 26.9 last night from Kieran Patterson, right towards the end, with Cabello also putting in a 26.93 right at the end. But to get these type of speeds, to get these type of lap times, you're really going to suckle, as we see Mahath Musa trying to get Ian Upton to hurry up a little bit out of the corners. That big BM just leaving no room on the rear bumper and trying to figure his way past. But give us a bit of insight to get these type of paces out there. What do the drivers need to do specifically to their setups and the mentality to ensure that they can get those 128s that we've seen for our top 11 drivers?
Well, Stephen, I can't really say what needs to be changed. I just normally arrive and drive, and if I feel the car's a bit not right, I just ask Kieran for some advice. But to get those times, of course, the car has to be adjusted to what the driver wants from the car, how he prefer his driving style, whether it be a very loose rear end car or a very pointy car on the front. So it's very difficult. But the one thing that we discovered last night from our team that Kieran told us, even though it's a bit late, was try and overpressure your tires. Because of the nature of Zolder being so short and so small and very quick lap times, you don't want to just aim for tire pressures to be ready for 1 or 2 laps. You need them to be overpressured over the long stint. Because as I experienced, you can get punctures and you can also just lose the entire pressure out of the tires. So better overpressure the tires and just drive it out.
You see, those are the little things to keep an eye out for. A couple of things happening in the background as we've got Sanjan Pillay on the screen. Alpha 1 Esports, a new team to the South African Esports. As we see Rian van der Reis, who was trying to move out the way, and it looks like running out of road as well on that last little bit. But we got some new teams joining up with us this season. We have got new drivers coming in, giving a bit of life to the category and having this, well, multiple skill level or class level of our Pro-Am and AMs altogether does make it rather interesting and does bring a different team dynamic, as you see Daniel Rowe bettering his lap time, a 1:28.005. Last couple of sectors, he's done rather well to improve his lap times. The Porsche's a little bit more hooked up. Do you think a lot of drivers that were watching the race last night went and took a couple of notes, a couple of drivers that were participating in the race, taking notes of what they need to do to just improve the cars, especially around the circuit. And considering we are going to be heading into the night time where the drivers are going to be relying to put on headlights.
I mean, pretty sure that the people from the stands definitely took some notes, especially if they can see their car that they are driving performing well, to see what they can change. But even if you take notes, it's not always going to plan out as you say. I mean, a race can happen during a race. Anything can happen. It can either go very good or really bad, as can be seen through multiple attempts by drivers. So yeah, best is just you can take notes from what happened last night during the sprint, but you also keep in mind it's just a sprint. This is an 80-minute race. Tires are going to be gone halfway through the race. I mean, most of the cars are struggling for grip. So it will be difficult.
Now, I do want to point out, I had a couple of chats with the drivers. I'm not going to out them just in case, because we do know, you and I both know, as sim racers, we tend to have the broadcast off to one side to hear if any valuable information does get brought up that we can utilize. There is a couple of drivers that are planning to do this 1 hour and 20-minute race, 80 minutes, as you said, on a single set of tires, purely on the fact they feel that they're losing too much time by changing tires. Your thoughts on that strategy of focusing on taking a single set of tires from start to finish, and especially with the track going to be cooling down and your pressures are then going to change. You said a little bit earlier, putting a lot
as
of
you
pressure.
see a snap there.
Yeah, that was your teammate, Daniel de Villiers, getting it all types of wrong. And I'm guessing that is one of the fundamentals of the Porsche, where turn in, the backside kicks out and decides that it wants to land into the felt. But your thoughts on this? Single set of tires, hour and 20 minutes, going to be a difficult one.
It's going to be a gutsy move. It will definitely pay off in the long run if you take care of your tires in the early stage, avoid any spins, avoid wheel spinning, and just be careful on your throttle inputs. But also maybe maybe running a higher TC to make sure that your tire life stays with you until the end. I believe it can be done, but you will have to be very, very careful in terms of looking after the tires. But with the temperature dropping, you will be running some very low pressure tires at the end of the race, which can either benefit you or give you a bit of not advantage at all. It can really take you backwards instead of forwards, as you were hoping.
Now, it can impact your race. We saw Altman Boertsma out in the big old Bentley having a bit of fun, and Mahath Musa currently running in third place, trying to get a little bit more pace out of the final corner to beat out Bego Krobler. Comes across the line, not quick enough. Daniel Rose still sitting on the top of the ladder. Bego Krobler lying in second. Mahath Musa in third. Killian Rayner in fourth. Grant Sebastian in fifth. Jean Leroux in sixth. Tyler Humphreys out in seventh position. Paul Fenter in eighth. Peter Meyer in ninth. Eric Kirstein currently in 10th position. Daniel de Villiers also on a bit of a charge, trying to pick himself up. But Tini and Kube out of nowhere putting in a time of a 128.4, puts himself into 7th place. Leroux in 6th with a 128.3. So a bit of changes going on. Grant Sebastian also chucking his way up through. So we've got a nice mix of drivers, new names that are challenging for that top spot. And I'm sure you do have a bit of support going towards not only your teammates, but your friends out there that are laying it all on the line here at Zolder.
Yeah, of course, Steven. I mean, your friends and teammates, and some of them have helped you, even have helped me through my sim racing journey. But as you mentioned, the new names coming forward, different car manufacturers. This is what Raceface wanted in terms of getting the BOP up and running, getting different names pulled through, and not just have, for example, a one-make series because we all know the Ferrari is an extremely fast car, an extremely powerful car. So
Not
this
the
definitely, it's growing on me, but the rear end not so much.
That's the problem. I get to see the rear end far too much because they're generally in front of me for a little bit. Oh, as we see Ruan van der Race take Slapper under braking, and that's going to pretty much end his qualifying and leaves him in 15th position. But sorry to jump in there.
No worries. No, so having old cars again coming back, like the Aston, the Honda, um, it's just something else to see these beauties back on track. I mean, the Aston is such a gorgeous car. That grunt that V8 just produces is so beautiful. As we see a slide there from Renault there out of the final corner. Hopefully that doesn't impact his time too much, but it just
puts
brings
him into second place.
Second. And this is what the beauty is of the BOP. Seeing the names, I mean, Hideo Renault is an old name, but to have him back fighting for that top is insanely amazing, which is just great.
Well, and pipping him at the line at 128, and Peter Meyer coming across as a couple of drivers going and landing up. But let's actually go to a little bit of a break, get back to our track preview while our cars line up on the line. As you brought up, different manufacturers, the Bentley returning, the Aston Martin, the Hondas, not seeing too much of the Jaguar, not seeing too much of the good old Lexus that was powering around. Getting to see some of the old cars, not all of it. But let's take a look through the grid. Daniel Rowe starting out in first place. Kilian Reiner in second place. Bego Krobler in third. Will be trying to improve his time. Mahath Musa lying in fourth position. Grant Sebastian in fifth. Tyler Humphreys in sixth. Seventh is Jean Leroux, followed by Tini Nkube. Paul Fenter in ninth. 10th is Domingo, followed by Peter Meyer, Eric Kirstein, Daniel De Villiers, Jason McGregor, Ruan van der Race, Sanjin Pillay in 16th, 17th, Kabelo Matsumai, who actually came second last night, so a little bit down the order here. Darren Miller in 18th, 19th, Conrad Volsking, followed by Tienes Buerta, Richard van Heerden, Gerry van Zyl, Ian Upton, Kerry Duplessis, Wessel Woeder, Charles Darden, Jaco Kutzer, Gerard Pretorius, Keegan Sanderson, Jonathan Chryslet, Alan Patterson, Arno Kraus, Jean-Ray Buerta, Hansi Meyerberg, Rob van der Heever, I do apologize, Mario Senecal, Loic Randabelt, along with Daniel Bourne, Altman Buerta, Graham Moll, and Bernard van der Merwe, rounding out our field tonight. 3 corners to warm your brakes up, 3 corners to get the tires up to temperature. What can the drivers do to get themselves sorted out here?
Every driver has their own preparation strategy. For me, example, I would just meet the Discord, just get my mind focused, and then, of course, having your teammates be an extra set of spotters for you as you're driving is always set, so I just unmute. But every driver is different. For example, taking my teammates, Darren and Daniel, they always talk a storm before a race. But it's just how the things work. But just get your head in the game, focus on the corners, keep it clean, and then just run the race.
Yep. Try and figure it out. Maybe get a little bit of pace and then stand on the brake. Try and rapidly heat up those brakes, as we see Daniel Rowe and Kilian Reiner doing exactly that. Bego Krobler, Mahath Musa going very, very close to him. But now we're going to be getting ready for the start line as they come across. Jim ready with the flag and the lights. Tim on the cameras. Waiting. The anticipation building. As the drivers cross the line, lights out, and away we go. Daniel Rowe diving into first place. Kilian Reiner is going to go around the outside. Bego Krobler tries to tuck his nose in and defend from Mahath Musa, who gets run out a little bit wide. Tyler Humphreys moving up in position, but has Grant Sebastian trying to go around the outside, gets it. And Paul Fenter also moving down the order as he's got a Ferrari up on the inside. So it's a Lamborghini. That's Tini Nkube that tried going after him. Isam Domingo, Peter Meyer also trying and having a bit of a fight. But out front, Daniel Rowe still battling out with Kilian Reiner as they head into what you were worried about, the first chicane. Late on the brakes, contact with Tini Nkube with the Aston, both going flying, both coming back into the field. And it looks like not too much carnage going on. And I'll say that Sanjin Pillay was actually landed up with a slight bit of impact between it. Bit of a difficult one out there. Too close to one another, and unfortunately didn't work out. Bit of a late send coming in as well, as Daniel De Villiers trying to go after Kabila Matsamai and Sanjan Pillay, respectively, but jockeying for position, fighting their way around the circuit.
Yes, Stephen, unfortunately, during that first lap, we didn't get the clean getaway that we all wanted, with multiple incidents going around. The first one being notably between car 13, which is Domingo, and Peter Meyer. So, unfortunately, not clean, and then, of course, leading contacts after that.
Oh, I've got multiple yellow flags. Sorry to bring it up.
Between Randabel and Allen.
Yeah.
Oh, no, this is somebody else.
That's
car 22.
Pretorius. There is Alan. So let's try and go back, because I had multiple
side by side going to... Alan.
There's the first contact with a Ferrari. Alan had nowhere to go. And it was bounce back into the field. Tini and Kube also got around it. Boertma nearly going into the back. Yeah. Quite...
As we can see.
It's a domino effect at that point, with racing so close to one another, with no room, even by lifting. You just worry about what's what's behind you, but quite a few broken cars coming into the pits. We got Kerry van Zyl, Conrad Volskink, Kerry Duplessis, Wessel Wooder, Ian Upton, Daniel Bouillon, Alan Patterson, along with Gerard Pretorius, also getting into the pits, getting themselves out. Issam Domingo and Daniel De Villiers coming to blows with one another. And let's go back 30 seconds on that. I think bit of close racing going on and getting a bit too close for comfort.
I think the Porsche might have lost itself going into that corner.
Looking okay at the moment.
There's the snap. Tries to all the brakes. And
Domingo with the slightest of clips. And that was all she needed to turn that Aston Martin right around. So easy to do when you're pushing the limits and the marbles are out there. And for Domingo, who just came around the corner, that lightest of touches can impact your race quite a bit. But for the drivers that are now doing a lot of repair work on their car, what does it mean for strategy? Because you're essentially using one of your stops to repair the car.
Well, even for this case, I would say you might want to employ what we discussed earlier. Unfortunately, I'll have to change tires, but just fill up the car as best as possible, run till the end, look after your tires, and just believe that there will be drive-throughs. As we know, this track is quite strict with its track limits. And just hope other people get drive-throughs or have contacts. As we have seen with this big field, there will definitely be collisions. And then just get back whatever is needed from there.
Now, going back to an old saying that I learned from, two chaps, Terry Stidworthy and Glenn Rowden. Glenn Rowden was the main person that said it to me, was the moment you go and cause trouble and it's your fault, or you go and land up going and colliding with someone's door, the stewards are definitely going to call you in, give you a penalty. You're going to get hit on the willy with a wet shoelace. I don't know if you've ever heard that saying before, but that used to be quite the saying that many of us young drivers got used to, and never used to laugh in the steward's room, because generally you're there for the wrong reasons. But do want to point out, Bago Krobler up into second place. Gideon Reyna constantly pressurizing him. Mahayath Musa taking some liberties as well to go and open up the distance to Grant Sebastian, with Tyler Humphreys doing everything he can. Yellow flags, though, for Charles Darden as he comes back onto the circuit. I think he landed up with a bit of a problem. Hansi Myberg. Man, oh man, talk about a guy that cannot cut a break in the races.
Steven, $10, I'm telling you, he just ran right on the first corner.
I can almost guarantee it. Can guarantee it. If he doesn't, we will enter the lotto and win it. And ran wide.
There's the Ross. Yeah, there's the understeer that just happens. The heartache. Not having a good race yesterday and coming back and almost repeating it again. But this time, let's do not commentators, because we get a stop go 30 by speeding into the pits, unfortunately.
But I do want to point out, Hansi, and I've got the record book here, Hansi has yet to finish a race in the past 3 seasons of each the Sprint Series and our GT3 series without incident.
Oh, without incident, I thought you were going to say that they haven't finished the race for the past three seasons. That would have been a record and a half.
So for 6 seasons in general, for Wednesdays and Thursdays combined, that's 6 seasons that he has purely battled with the car. Not quite a record you want to hold, that's for certain. As Peter Meyer going and trying to defend a Sanjin Pillay with a massive lunge into the chicane. Made it work, but didn't have the drive that Peter Meyer did. Grant Sebastian, though, has got a problem. Looks like Tyler Humphries and him had a bit of contact. Let's go back 30 seconds on that, because Grant Sebastian was on the charge. Tyler was right behind him, and
curb incoming.
Paul Fenter, swings to the inside line. He's trying to follow Mahath Musa around. Second guesses it. Contact from Paul that created a chain effect as it all concertinaed into the corner. Oh, man. There's nothing you can do. You're a piggy in the middle at that point, and unfortunately, Grant Sebastian got the worst of it. And
to see the Porsche going into the wall.
Tyler kept it out.
And saves it. Well done, Tyler. That is definitely a code brown, as you call it.
That's no change your shorts there and then, because you've just changed the color of it. But that is going to bring him onto the track with Cabello Matsumai right up against his rear wheel arch, trying to push a little bit harder. Cabello making quick work of Tyler, who tries to go for the cutback, just can't get that same acceleration. But into the chicane, we've seen moves done here where that little late lunge can come out on top. Opting not to do it, going to play it safe. The Mercedes bouncing over the curbs, but looking far more comfortable compared to its mid-engine counterparts.
Yeah, Stephen, that the McLaren, I don't want to say McLaren, I got McLaren on the brain. No, the Mercedes is just incredible at handling any form of curbing. It's been one of its strongest characteristics ever since it got released into the game, and it's just able to mount those curbs and just ride them through, where other cars, such as the Porsche, is having some issues with that. You can raise the car, but then you will have to sacrifice other aspects in terms of straight line speed.
Yeah, and also just in terms of long-term keeping the car alive. And by raising it up a little bit, you can also allow air to get underneath and break a bit of grip that you wanted. Killian Rayner dealing with Paul Fenter at the moment, who is fighting out for 4th and 5th. We do have one retirement, though. Alan Patterson saying the car too badly damaged to go out, rather going to park it in the box and lean into helping the team that's still currently running out on the circuit. So, Alan going and opting that his race might be done, but will assist his fellow teammates out there just to ensure, like Darren Miller, who's going after Sanjin Pillay at the moment, will need all the help in the world just to get an idea of where everyone is on the circuit and start working out when is the right time to go into the pits, especially with the race going on. But with 10 minutes done and dusted, Daniel Rowe out in first place, Bego Krobler out in second, Mahath Musa right up against his tailpipe trying to catch up in third, Killian Rayner, Paul Fenter, Eric Kirstein, Jason McGregor, Cabello Matsumai, Tyler Humphries in 9th, 10th is Peter Meyer, followed by Sanjin Pillay, Darren Miller, Grant Sebastian, Tiernis Buerta, Richard van Heerden, Jonathan Chrysler, Charles Darden, Rob going and losing out and coming right across the nose of the Hitman. The Hitman nearly had another client to go and take out there, but fortunate enough, the payment did not go through, so he did not want to take that hit out on Rob van der Heever, and much to his happiness on that. Jean-Ray Buerta in 20th position, Altman Buerta, Graham Moll, Arno Kraus, Jean Leroux out on circuit, Bernard van der Merwe, Gerry van Zale, Jaco Kutzer, Ruan van der Rust, Conrad Volskink, Issam Domingo, Mario Circle, Wessel Wooder, Hansi Myberg in 33rd position, Kiga Saunderson, Loic Randabal, Ian Upton Jared Pretorius, who's making his way through. 38th is Daniel Braun, along with Kerry Duplessis, who is waiting in the pits. I still think he's got a fair amount of damage on that car that needs a bit of work after the massive incident. Bego Krobler getting clipped by Mahath Musa. Both of them moving out of the way, thankfully, for the rest of the field. But Mahath Musa does come on in front of Eric Kirstein, who makes quick work of him. And Eric Kirstein going and pulling one of the drivers. I think that was down. That might have been Ian Upton that's just trying to hang on to the back of him. Mahath Musa, though, losing out that drive. Dropping down the order, Jason McGregor gets past him as well. Bego Krobler retaking the position. Mahath Musa, I think, was waiting for him. But Kabelo Matsumai is going to try and look for the inside line. Second guesses it. Mahath Musa pulling into the pits after that little bit of contact into the chicane. Very easily done. It does look like an opportunity to go and overtake, especially through those chicanes. You do poke your nose in, but unfortunately the whole thing tightens up rather quickly out there as a driver, and I think you can testify for that one, especially considering your race, Cameron, where you tried one of those moves and you had to quickly back out of it because it got a bit busy.
Yeah, that's true, Stephen. I mean, you have to. It's difficult going into that second chicane. You sometimes have to time your braking perfectly. But behind other cars, specifically for the McLaren, if you behind that car in this area, you just get stuck right in, and that can lead either to contact. So I don't think Musa had the time to react and rather just cut the chicane to avoid contact, as he was a bit too close. But sometimes you just have to cut forward, cut across the track and just take the penalty.
Oh, looks like Grant Sebastian, a little bit of contact onto Miller. That might have been a bit of net code coming in because it was such a quick snap, like a rubber band. So thankfully, no, it looks like it wasn't contact. It was just a snap. But Darren Miller losing out the drive. Grant Sebastian immediately right up onto the back of him, trying to get into that slipstream and push as hard as he can to get past. Dives up on the inside, late braking, big Mercedes, big nose, going to make it careful, and does so. Miller tried coming back at him, couldn't get it all sorted out, the slightest of contact. But that's what you want to do. So you want to try and close that door as quick as possible, considering Tianus Buerta, who is closing down the distance. He's got Hansi Myberg sitting between him and the car ahead. So Tianus Buerta is just watching the battle up ahead and saying, right, you guys go fight it out. I'll be right on the back of you in due course.
Yes, that is true, Stephen. However, I think what Miller tried to do out of the exit of the hairpin was try and capitalize on the acceleration of the Porsche, which is one of his strengths. But something with Zolder and this track is just working for the Merc.
Yeah, well, Gideon Rayner not having a bit of luck. He lost out a serious amount of drive, and Paul Fenter went past him to go and inherit second place. And I think this was into the first chicane, got a little bit unsteady. Yep, that just missing the corner. The apex is back there, buddy. You might want to go put it back. And Paul Fenter going and saying, well, thank you very much on that one. Getting past Gideon Rayner, though, I think is starting to struggle with the front tires on that BMW. Understeer becoming a little bit more inherent through the corners compared to the rest of the vehicles. Do you think maybe that early push at the start cost him a fair amount of time?
I don't know, Stephen. I mean, we didn't see much incidents involving Rayner where he spun, which could have possibly damaged tires, but perhaps that too early of a push might have caused the tires to just have gotten too much wear on them. But there is still ways for him to claw it back. But it's also important to note that it was the first chicane where he lost it, which is quite a difficult and a bumpy chicane to go through. So sometimes if you just carry too much speed, you think you might make it, but you will just clip that inside the first part of the curb, and it will just send you off track no matter what.
And, you know, we always talk about the different tires and we keep coming back to it. But the tires go through different periods of when they're cold, then they get a bit warmer, it becomes extra sticky, you've got immense amount of grip. Then you get through the middle section now. I'm going back to when I was racing ACC and coming second last in the AM division, that you landed up with this kind of a sluggish period where they were gummy, where the grip was there, but it drifted away quite a bit. And you would drive out of that little threshold essentially into a point where there's grip again before it starts tapering off. Is that still prevalent around this circuit, especially with the temperature starting to drop 20 degrees, that there is that chance of it just starting to taper off? They're getting into that threshold now. Try and push through it to get back into where it starts picking up grip again.
I mean, Stephen, I can definitely say that I experienced something similar to that last night with my tires. They all of a sudden at one point I was running, I believe, 3 laps consecutively. In turn 1, I was just running a bit too wide due to the tires not wanting to grip up, and then all of a sudden they just came back alive. So the tires are definitely an aspect that needs to be managed by the drivers. With the new tire model that was implemented by Kunos into ACC, it is definitely not just aimed to get a certain temperature. You need to make sure that you get the temperature right for all the corners. You want for, I might be incorrect here, but for the long corners, you might want something that's a bit more harder in terms of tire pressures to have the car just stick a bit there, and for the smaller ones, just get that extra grip to get the drive out of the corner. But the tires are flexing so much and so different than the old tire model that it's definitely a skill that a lot of the drivers had to learn on with the switchover.
I'll take a look. Peter Meyer having to really bottom out the pedal, trying to catch up to Tyler just ahead of him, going very, very deep into the corners and having to back out. But another battle that's going on, Jason McGregor and Bego Hrubler going and changing positions. Jason McGregor getting past, but Eric Kirstein also dropping a little bit behind. Tianus Buerta and Miller. Miller landing up in the dirt. He landed up with a bit of contact, and I think that was with Buerta. Let's take a look. Did he get a bit of a snap oversteer on the car? Which we saw last night, especially into this final chicane. No, there's a McLaren parked in the middle of nowhere. Contact on the rear. Buerta spun it out, landed up in the middle of the circuit. Miller kind of arrived on the scene, and it looked like that Tiernus actually stuck it in gear to try and get himself going, not realizing that the space was closing up quite a bit. Jason McGregor, though, down into 10th position. He was a little bit higher up in the order.
He was battling Hrobler about 30 seconds or a minute ago, I believe he was showcased.
Oh, there we go. Lost it.
Again.
Over the curves.
Oh, that's just heartbreaking to see that.
Fortunate enough, not too hard into the wall. Maybe just a couple of seconds worth damage, a slight bit of aero there, but you can be sure the tires are definitely grumpy at this point. And there's no sweet talking that you can do to try and get it to work. And you can see that Honda just sliding its way around the circuit. And that tells its own little story.
Yes, Stephen, that's true. That's a tricky thing with these tires. They don't just immediately cool off after a spin. They take quite a bit of time for them to just get down back to the operating temperature that you had them before, which can differentiate between maybe 2 or 3 laps, depending on how high you want them to be. But you will be struggling with dirty tires, and then also very, very warm tires after that spin. Let's hope he can fight back after that.
I think it's going to be the consideration of maybe taking new tires to see Eric Costain going defensive, middle of the circuit to hold back Cabello. Cabello's getting right up against the rear spoiler, and it does look like one of our backmarkers moving out of the way to Tyler Humphreys, who's trying to catch up to this little battle. But Eric Kirstein putting his car right in the middle of the circuit, just forcing Cabello to try and pick a side. Cabello a little bit later on the brakes. That Mercedes a little bit more comfortable compared to the Ferrari 296 under braking. but just not getting the drive out of the corners. Looks for the inside line once again, couldn't get it, as he is hunting down Eric Kirstein, who's constantly watching his mirrors at this point, trying to figure out where on earth this Mercedes is going to go. And off the rear, we can see Cabello getting closer, especially under braking. Goes for the apex a little bit earlier, but gets on the power, slight snap of the wheel, and he is definitely taking the fight to Cabello Matsamai ahead.
Now, Stephen, that rearward shot is just the most beautiful shot that you can ever get, other than, of course, the bumper cam. But just seeing how that car can close down that gap under braking is just incredible. So that's also another thing that there's the beautiful shot there. So another thing, as we see him just hop over that curb there, but another thing that we can take notice, if you can really compare between the different cars, both the Ferrari and the Mercedes are running quite high in terms of their ride heights. That's just a natural characteristics to the car. But then you take a look at something like the McLaren, which is a very low car. It's basically glued to the ground. Not much space that you can see between the floor of the car and any daylight, really. So, as you see, Cabello just running a bit wide there. But that's also what makes this track such a strong track for cars like the McLaren and even the Ferrari. But the Porsche is also doing extremely well, surprising on this track, which is good to see, as the Porsche is sometimes considered just being a tire wrecker due to the incredible amount of power going through its rear wheels.
Yeah, no, definitely one thing to keep an eye out for, and does keep the challenge up ahead for the drivers to work out what's going to work for them. Not an easy thing to do, not an easy thing to start figuring out of how it's all going to work, what you need to do to try and close down the differences. But I've got to ask, in this situation, we're down to 57 minutes. Now you're having to push harder and harder. You know that you're starting to take more of a hit onto those tires. What's going to be the strategies going forward for the drivers of, okay, what do I need to do to ensure that I stay right up to the top?
Well, Stephen, I think we're going to see this strategy that has been tried and tested throughout multiple seasons since this format has been implemented. Probably front runners are going to run through half distance, change tires, and then continue running. Or if they want to be really gutsy and just run the one tire stop, they're probably going to stop midway through and then just top off on fuel, and then right before the end, before the pit window closes, pop into the pits, put in that last liter of fuel, and then get back out. So with the possibility of people, as we see John Roberta running a bit wide and getting that inside curb there, with the possibility of drivers not changing tires halfway through the race, it will definitely be a strategy battle to see who's the drivers that change tires and those who decided to, in terms of pace difference, you see that, and those who decide to just run the 1 hour 20 on all tires.
Yeah, who can go that extra little mile to try and close down. Not an easy thing to do for any driver, and I feel that the guys have got to really start playing into an interesting point of view now. So we see Daniel Rowe make his way through. Paul Fenter, though, out in second place. He's confident with the car and trying to get himself that little bit more up the road. Kilian Rayner, who's also on the climb, he's in third place. Beggar Krobler trying to close down. Eric Kirstein out in fifth position. Sixth, Cabello Matsamai. Tyler Humphries in seventh. Peter Meyer in eighth. Sanjan Pillay in ninth. And 10th, Jason McGregor. They are in a monstrous fight, but we cannot forget some of the other drivers that are still out there getting close to one another. Grant Sebastian, Richard van der Heerde, Jonathan Chrysler, Charles Darden is still going and circulating. Daniel the Hitman de Villiers keeping ahead of Darren Miller, so the two are going to run in formation flying, I would hope, just for that little longer to try and pull themselves up through the field. But I want to ask, is there any of that sort of discussion that happens amongst a team? I know between myself and my teammate, we tend to just stick it out and race, and we'll race each other. unless we've got a severe deficit in pace, then it will be, okay, multi 21, swap the cars around, or concentrating on the points to try and swap things around. But most of the time, it's go door to door with each other, try not go and crash, even to the dismay of our pit boss. Does that happen with the PWSR? And do you think that happens for like the hybrid academies, the Alpha Ones, the Project Vapors, the Angry Racing, and more?
Well, Stephen, I can tell definitely from the PWSR team an example last night where I think it was the early stages where me and Daniel were battling it quite hard out, side by side going into corners. We don't really run by team orders. You can make your own choice. For example, again last night when the tires decided on the right side to say they want to start leaking air, to where Daniel asked me, will I let him through or not? But that's the thing. We have to check each other's pace. If we see that we can still hold them off, then we, of course, will continue fighting or just continue driving. But as soon as you see you're losing time to the guy in front and costing the guy behind you time, as you see a little bit of snap there from the Villiers, then, of course, we make the call and say, you know what? I don't have the chance to catch the guy in front, maybe my teammate has, and just let them through. So I don't think really team orders exist, even though I do know last season at Suzuka, I do owe Daniel for that still, where where I made a call and asked him, I'm struggling with my tires, he's letting him through, seeing that Darren has quite a lot of pace with that Porsche, he's just gelling with that car for the season. But
I think there was a bit of miscommunication there because De Villiers moved over and Miller followed him through, trying to utilize a little bit more of that slipstream. So a little bit of miscommunication of go right-hand side. I think it was arrive on the scene and okay, so I am going right. It's my highest Musa trying to go up on the inside of Rob, and Rob landing off into the dirt, losing out a bit of drive. And Jason McGregor once again going and landing up. Thankfully, not too hard into the wall, trying to rejoin the circuit, but is on the racing line. Oh boy. Jonathan Chrysler went and breathed a big sigh of relief on that one. But let's go back 30 seconds. Let's look from in the car at this situation. Into the corner. Big left hand. And you can see just going and kicking the rear wheels up. And that lands up. Now he's just trying to focus. Now at this point, as a driver, this is daunting for anyone to try and work out of what's going to happen.
Yes, Stephen, it's multiple things are running through your mind if you ever end up in that situation. You're trying to get back into a race as fast as possible, trying to crash into anybody else, but also trying to cause any more damage onto the car, which will later on affect you even more. As we see KB there running a corner.
Yeah, that's Cabello trying to get a little bit ahead of Eric Kirstein, gets a bit of snap oversteer, couldn't keep it all together, and losing out that rear. Once again, inside curb. Is he busy with his pit stops? That is missing out the corners a little bit too late in one corner, too early in the other, and running out very wide once again. As he's trying to get onto Eric Kirstein, he's closed up quite a bit. It seems like the focus has come back, but I wouldn't be surprised. He's working with that little menu that sits off to the left-hand side that you can select your pit stops. Now, for everyone at home, you can preset your pit stops of strategy 1, strategy 2, strategy 3, but you still have to select whether you're taking tires or whether you're on strategy 1 or strategy 2 or strategy 3. And by doing that, you have to take your eyes off the racing line, look to the left of you, move, change on the menu, and get back onto the race, try and focus back in. That is always a difficult thing. I've always found it as a difficult part to the sim, and we do have third-party apps that can try and circumvent that issue that do get used by teams for allowing teammates to work from the outside in, similar to what iRacing has. But how do you feel with drivers working like that, trying to change something mid-race while you're in a battle, while you're trying to close down the distance, especially in a race like this?
Well, Stephen, it depends on, for me personally, it depends on which track. For example, on a circuit that's as small as Zolder, even for example, Brands Hatch, almost said Bathurst, Brands Hatch, which is very small and windy. I prefer to just get the base in terms of my tire pressures, which I will be starting on, set and saved in the setup. As we see a move on the outside from KB, as contact and turn
Turn
around.
around. And he comes back.
Oh,
Little clip onto Eric Kirstein. Both just getting away from that. But Peter Meyer and Sanjan Pillay are now able to close down the distance between the two. But Cabello and Eric Kirstein not having an easy time out there. Cabello really suffering with those rear tires, snapping out underneath him. And it's not becoming an easy race for that big hunking Mercedes to come around. Paul Fenter also getting a off track. I think he ran out wide. Looks all okay out on the track. But Eric Kirstein and Cabello fighting it out. But do you think the rear tires on that Mercedes now starting to scream enough at this point? While Eric Kirstein in the Ferrari still got a bit of life underneath him, but just not getting that same drive out of the corners. And that keeps allowing KB to come at him. Drives over the marbles. Contact between the two.
That's very aggressive.
That sent Eric Kirstein a little bit sideways. Luckily. Yeah, continuing. But not exactly the way he wanted it to go. So let's actually take a look at Eric Kirstein's camera view, because we want to see exactly how this threw him out. So KB was coming up to him, clipped him on the left rear, heading into the chicane. Sideways, misses the chicane. Fortunate enough.
Very fortunate. That was, I think, Kirstein needs to really go and say thanks to his guardian angel after that, because that was very lucky for him not to be able to hit any of those curbs, because it would have definitely sent him into a wall or turned him around.
Yeah, but, and the thing is, he was off the throttle enough, as we see Bago Kroblet running out wide, trying to catch onto the back of Gideon Rayner, a little bit of dirty air coming across and getting that aero wash, not helping the understeer on the Aston Martin. But I do think Eric Kirstein went over the curb, and he was slow enough over the corner that it wouldn't count against him for track limits exceeded, because he did not gain an advantage. But that didn't do his tires any favors.
No, for a fact, Stephen, his tires will definitely be angry at him now. But same for Mutsumai, the previous lap where he got turned around in the second chicane. Both the tires are definitely going to be begging for mercy now at this point. So this will also highlight again with the one stop, with the no change strategy that you say some drivers might try to follow. We've seen way too many cars busy to lose grip on their tires, either the rear stepping out or just an insane amount of understeer. So I think with unless of course Daniel Rowe, I don't know how his tires are doing, but unless if you are battling for position with other cars, you will probably consider having to change tires and put that strategy of not changing tires completely out the window.
Well, taking a look, a couple of drivers pulling into the pits and getting themselves sorted. Mahath Musa is down in 15th. He's actually done a splash and dash. Then you've got Tyler Humphries that's done a splash and dash. Jean Leroux's done a splash and dash. So a couple of drivers getting their pit stops done. 45 minutes left of the race, or 45 minutes and 20 seconds if we want to really be nitpicky. Still some time out there. Tyler not getting the same drive as he wants, as he's got Jean Leroux immediately onto the back of him. Drivers are going to have to start considering the traffic. Now, at this point, it's going to be how much time am I losing? How much time am I gaining? And can I get this first stop out the way, as Eric Kirstein cutting it very close there?
And that is quite true, Stephen. That's a lot of stuff that a driver has to consider, especially with this, as we just see the incredible braking power of that Mercedes. I also noticed that we had quite a long period of yellow flags there a couple of seconds back. I didn't see anything on my map popping up, but yes, it seeing where you're going to come out, as we see another collision as Costain decides to park it on the exit curve there. It's deciding where you want to exit.
This is going to be a boxing match
Ooh.
into the chicane. That's for certain. Cabello and Eric going around side by side. Tries to go for the cutback. Couldn't get it. Going back onto the throttle. But it does look like Darren Miller with a drive-through penalty. Cabello switching around, trying to figure out where he can get past. With Peter Meyer has now closed onto the two of them. Kirstein off into the dirt. Cabello getting past. And that is not going to help his drive. And now Peter Meyer has closed up the distance. The Aston Martin now a viable threat. And Kirstein obviously going and just letting Cabello know, hey, buddy, that was a bit close for comfort. But I'm going to come back. We're going to go racing. And Peter Meyer trying to battle his way through. Eric Kirstein goes to the middle of the circuit. Contact. Oh, Meyer.
And he starts turning him around. And there's the curb that I talked about earlier for Kirstein. He just wasn't so fortunate this time, and he just launched over that curb, unfortunately.
And too much throttle on the way in. Back on the racing line. You might want to get yourself going very quickly. Grant Sebastian just breathing a sigh of relief there. Whoo, boy. A lot of drivers going and pushing the limits of what they could do. Jonathan Chrysler trying to come back. But let's actually take a look at that whole Peter Meyer as we see Sanjan Pillay coming at him. Let's see if we can go back a fraction.
Maybe a bit more.
Maybe a little bit more than that. Yeah, unfortunately, Tim giving us 30 seconds. It was more of a minute back. So, Tim, nice try. Thank you. But we do get to see where Peter Meyer actually lost out the drive and allowed the likes of Sanjan Pillay to close up on him. So, Peter Meyer with a quick turnaround. Beautiful pirouette. Got to say, for execution, 10 out of 10. But for preparedness, I would give that about a 5. As we see Eric Kirstein actually with a drive-through penalty as well for track limits exceeded. And Darren Miller with a drive-through penalty with track limits exceed. Now, that adds essentially a third stop to your race.
Well, taking not a complete, well, maybe just a splash and dash, but also not completely. But I've seen many drivers come back from a drive-through and still, as you see Darren run wide there again, that car is not very happy. But might be considering going into just change tires since we were almost at a halfway mark there. But yeah, it's something else to be considered. As we see Meyer on Pillay's rear end there again, fighting back. Again, as you said, a 10 out of 10 for execution, but maybe a 9 out of 10 for technique.
Oh, Eric Kirstein, the night gets worse. A stop-go 30-second penalty. And that is just, there's two ways it can happen. One, you get off the pit limiter a little bit too early, right before the pit line. Or you engage second gear and that turns off your pit limiter. Whoa! As Peter Meyer goes flying into the pits. I think that was outbraking himself and the car deciding it was going to go into the pits, because that looked very, very unplanned compared to the corner where Sanjan Pillay was trying to slow down.
Yes, Stephen, but going back to what you said with the stop go 30 that Kirstein encountered there, and he went into the pits, but one of his stops didn't count. He still has 2 stops that he needs to do, which basically makes that he needs to do 4 stops for the night in order to meet all the requirements set. But it can be, as we see, Bago with Reina there fighting very, very closely.
Proper running between the two. And yeah, for anyone that isn't sure of how's that possible, if you put fuel in the car, he pulled in the pits, he's done it right. Well, you've got a little square box that you have to go into, a nice little red square box. If you get it wrong and you come in at an angle, it will stop you, jack you up, move you across, drop you, jack you up again, and that will then discount the pit stop. So not going to help out there as Mahaith Musa gets a massive tank slapper on the way out, trying to catch up to De Villiers. De Villiers just giving a little bit of a shake, saying, come and get me, buddy. Come and get me. Let's see if the Project Vapor can blow a bit of smoke towards the Hitman.
Daniel is an operator that works well under pressure. He He does get quite mad, but that just improves his driving from a personal experience I have seen. So no, but yeah, that stop go 30. I don't think I think Estate might have said he's just gonna park it, which will bring hopefully not. No, he's still going,
No,
which
he's
is
still
good.
going to go.
That is what we want to see. Well done, Eric. But yes, no, that as we see,
That's Van der Merwe.
Barend. Oh, he had a very difficult night last night, and it seems that his streak of bad luck, unfortunately, is continuing tonight.
Now, coming from the gold division, Van der Merwe trying everything, outbraked himself hugely into the hairpin. The corner went the other way, and the Garmin navigation turned around and said recalculating at that point. So
It's lucky he just kept it out the wall, kept it clean, meaning that he can just continue from there.
yeah, didn't get too close to spiking it. But one thing that's going to definitely keep you on your seat, Daniel de Villiers feeling the pressure with Mahath Musa. Two drivers you're very familiar with, as de Villiers going and launching the car, getting cleared for takeoff. That Porsche becoming a flying pig at this point, with the BMW trying to hunt him down, the flying beaver of the BMW going and closing up. But this is going to be very interesting. Mahath Musa, Daniel de Villiers both know each other for quite some time. They know what each other's tactics are. It's not just something new. It's not a different driver that you're unaware of how their driving style works. When you're in this type of situation, Cameron, as you see Jason McGregor, he's pulling into the pits out of third place. But when you're in the situation where you're dealing with your competitors that you race with day in and day out, Mahath Musa, well, taking that one. But what can you do to switch up the game to your competitor to keep them on their toes and not just, well, mimic or predict your next move?
Well, of course, in certain situations, you have to be sometimes a bit unpredictable. Maybe brake a bit later or differentiate your braking points if they are far back enough. Don't differentiate your braking points if they are right underneath your diffuser. But what I would normally do is I would just, from my perspective, just drive my normal race. If I see perhaps that they get a better run, I'll try and cover off the inside line, and then of course brake a bit later. But if you with us driving so for such a long time with these drivers, you get this form of respect between each other. You know that this person won't do this on purpose, even if there is contact. But also be aware of what the other person might do. A great example will be a point that me and Daniel is actually a bit of disagreeing upon is last night, lap 1, where a bunch of cars were going for a gap, but no contact, but still there was enough respect between the drivers in order to make sure that there is no contact, enough space is left, which is what we learn from each other as with the times going in and out of terms of driving against each other. So
let's get this one right for anyone that missed it last night. Cameron de Bastos decided to unplug his brake and launch it up on the inside of 6 cars ahead of him and make the passes stick, because they were thinking there's no possible way someone would go for the apex. So with cold tires, as Domingo just went in between the likes of Darren Miller and Conrad Folsking, nearly going and taking the two of them out, and Domingo pulling into the pits after that one. That was a little bit frightening.
I need to call a cardiologist after that. Sure, my heart, I can't handle that. Not even when I'm out the car, I'm getting heart attacks at this point.
Jingos. Couldn't cut it closer even if he tried. But yeah, you literally unplugged the brakes and went for a dive that no one expected, climbed up 6 positions. Lots of people saying it was a massive lick it and send it. You're saying there was a gap. I made it. No one was hurt in the process. Carry on the race. So
that also brings in terms of the trust, the car that you're choosing, the trust that you have to have in your car. The McLaren, for me personally, I just love it for my late braking. For again, it's just that most of its braking is done in that final stage. which uh, which I will say it's not just this good or whatever. It's all about, it might be a little bit of luck also. It's definitely having that trust that it was McGregor on closest on the outside to not just turn in and claim the apex, even though I did have to park the car on the apex at the end to make sure I don't hit him at any point.
Now, park the car, pull the handbrake up, and put a brick behind the wheel so it doesn't roll back, sort of style. But let's take a look at something interesting. Daniel Rowe, Daniel de Villiers still needing to do one pit stop. Okay, they're needing to do it. Then you've got Miller, who needs to do one pit stop. Needs to do his first pit stop. So 3 cars still out there, not done any of their pit stops. Third place Tyler Humphries has done his pit stop. He's done a splash and dash, no change of tires. Jean Leroux, splash and dash, no change of tires. Paul Fenter has changed his tires. He was 32 seconds into the box, done his stop. Bago Krobler, also a change of tires. Gideon Reynard's done a change of tires. Cabello Matsamaya's done a change of tires. Conrad Volskink, splash and dash. Miller still needing to get a stop in. Jonathan Chrysler has done a splash and dash, and Grant Sebastian with a change of tires. So some drivers going very late into this race with no change of tires. Do you think we're starting to get to the point of no return where changing tires is just not an option anymore? You've got to run it to the end.
This is quite a difficult thing, Stephen. That's the thing. Some drivers might just be, as we see Grant going on the inside of one of the back markers there. No, it's not.
That's Jonathan Chrysler for position through the hairpin. That's, as you pointed out at the beginning, that hairpin is a great advantage if you can get the car to stop on the apex in time. And Jonathan
missed the breaking point there, or just got a little bit sucked in with the aero, but that is going to be some very big damage on the rear of that Mercedes.
Jonathan Chrysler going and have you ever watched Fast and Furious where they had the ramp car, where it was pretty much a low slung sports car, well, just a space frame that had a hydraulic on the front that would launch the cars. Now that's what the McLaren did to the Mercedes, launched the rear of it up. Grant Sebastian having to come down really hard onto the rear, and also, as you pointed out, will be sustaining a fair amount of damage to the back of the car. Do you think, and I'm going to point this one, due to where the pits is, and let's go back a minute, let's see if we could try and isolate what happened from it. Do you think he was trying to aim for the pits? Yes, I think he was trying to aim for the pits. And
he was definitely aiming for the pits. It's just, I think that extra slip from the Merc made him misjudge his braking point, which just one thing led to another, and unfortunately, it's where it ended up with this. It's really gut-wrenching.
Grant Sebastian just got a prostate exam.
Well, I did call him the diffuser inspector during last week. Now he's got his diffuser inspected, unfortunately. Oh, but that's just gut-wrenching. I feel bad for Grant, going from just bad to starting in a good position and then just going backwards.
Well, maybe we can ask Grant how's the prostate after that one, because I think it was checked properly. And if it's talking about only the car, Jonathan has checked the rear axle, the diff, the prop shaft, and got close to the gearbox itself, just to make sure the selector was in after that sort of impact, going and burying his car right underneath the Mercedes. And that's one of the problems of running so close on the circuit, is because that pit lane is so deceptive, and to get it right, you want to go as fast as you can into the pit lane. You've got the room, but the corner's there as well that you've got to be so careful of for the drivers that are trying to go to it. So I know from my experience around the circuit, it's lift off the throttle slightly, give yourself a bit of room to get into the pits. You don't want to give too much away, but you want to give yourself a bit of time to take the dive. As we see Daniel Rowe, he's now pulling into the pits to get his pit stop done and dusted. That will put de Villiers up ahead of him when he comes by. So Daniel trying to move his way forward. But Cabello Matsumai, 29 minutes left of the race and 29 seconds, puts in the fastest lap time, a 1:28.2. And that does show the new tires starting to come into play. Yellow flags for 296. That's Vessel Wooder, who's had a little bit of a problem there. Let's try and take a look at what happened to him. Do you think the track conditions getting a little bit darker and also a little bit cooler starting to affect the drivers as they carry on through this evening?
I believe so, Stephen. With if the tires aren't pressurized correctly, then it will definitely have an impact. Unfortunately for Voda, there he just placed his left rear tire just on the dirt, and after having unsettled by the inside curb, and just spun him around, unfortunately. But going back to
Cabello with a drive-through penalty after we were just talking about him.
See, this is something that we actually noticed last night. While Kieran noticed from his point, Cabello is insanely fast with his pace around the track, but he loves to flirt with the track limits, unfortunately. And unfortunately, last night he got away with it, but tonight it seems that he couldn't get away with it, which is really sad. But there's still some time left, I believe, that he can maybe claw back some few positions.
Yeah, it's gonna be a hard run for him. And see yellow flags for Charles Darden once again.
Verb again.
Yep, that first chicane is taking people's numbers of note, and it does look like Darden did have a bit of damage to the front of his Ferrari. But as you pointed out, going and flirting with curbs, going and giving it a sweet song, talking nicely to it, hoping it's going to play nice. But unfortunately, sometimes it gets a little bit rough and throws a bit of heavy metal in there to send you flying or go and land up in a world of hurt. Arno Kraus as well, going and landing off the circuit. He was trying to let Bago Krobler come by as Bago in the Aston Martin trying to claw his way through. Arno Kraus in 20th position, doing a good job out there. Daniel Rowe, though, has done his first pit stop, maintained position. Has got the advantage over Daniel de Villiers, 27 seconds. Daniel de Villiers still has 2 pit stops to go. Tyler Humphries, though, trying to do a late pit stop, hoping to try and undercut Daniel Rowe. Gonna be a difficult one, especially with that pit window being 25 minutes and 47 seconds. It's going to be one of these ones that you're going to sit and wonder. Bago Krobler putting in the fastest lap time, beating out Cabello's time, a 1:28.160. So Bago Krobler just that little bit faster. Also, do want to point out, on a fresh set of tires. So maybe that's starting to come into play. Daniel Rowe hasn't put a fresh set of tires on.
Yes, Stephen, actually, I believe the tires are definitely going to have an effect now, as I think we might have our 4th retiree here for the race. I haven't seen Grant Sebastian leave the pits yet, which is really, really sad to see, as he was running a very good race, and that final damage just unfortunately sent him over the edge in terms of tonight. But Stephen, this also brings up another thing. So the cheetah corner on Kyalami is well known for being the death curb, due to it being the one where most drivers lose out if they just hit it wrong. Do you think that the curbs at Zolder have reclaimed that title for the way that the curbs have caught out the drivers tonight?
Zolder's been around a lot longer than Kyalami's cheetah corner, so they needed a template. They looked at Monza and they said, well, this can tear a car in half if they go sideways, so that works. Zolder, on the other hand, has a curb that will launch a car and really have fun, and it's got 2 corners to make that, 2 curbs to make that work. So that works rather well. I think there's quite a few of them as Ultimate Boertma going and outbraking himself, trying to get ahead of this little battle of Conrad Volskink, who is trying to fight his way through, and has got one of the Porsches right behind him, just trying to see who that is. I think it's a backmarker that was going after Ultimate Boertma, as just as he comes into shot. That is car number 5. That can't see car number 5.
Car number 5. we'll also quickly check on my system here. Car number 5, I do not see on the circuit.
Is that... No, it's not
Is
54.
it?
That's not Mahayth Musa. There's a 5 on that door. I will find it.
Are
It's
you sure it's 5 and not 6?
It
Because
could
I
be
believe it might be 6 due to some of due to my tools indicating an incident involving car number 6. But I can be under correction for that one.
Well, let's try and take a look. Loic Randabel. Yes, you're right. It's
Yes.
Loic Randabel with car 6, so well done. Your eyes are better than mine. Getting a little bit worn out in my old age, you know, got to put my spectacles on. They've as thick as Coke bottle caps, going and keeping it out there. Sure. Yeah.
It's good to see Loic back again. A very prominent driver in the F1 scene for South Africa. Finally decided to come back again into the ACC world, and it's good to see him back. Decided to take the Porsche after achieving much success with the older variant of this car, with when under the old banner of Ocelot Racing, and he's doing some. He's just getting back in the swing of things, but it's good to see him still running, which is very good to see.
Yeah, it's done well in the 992 and trying to replicate the success with that 991 GT3 that he had previously. Okay, so Miller's in the pits. Peter Meyer getting past. Cabello has completed his drive-through penalty. Has got one pit stop left. Lying in 11th position at the moment. Trying to get a little bit more pace underneath him. One driver I do want to talk about fighting it out for 3rd place is Paul Pinky Toe Fenter going after Jean Leroux. And something that Paul's very familiar with is the Leroux in front of everything, going and saying, well, need to get a little bit closer to that, and putting on the charge. Or is he a bit of a Cactus Jack fan? You know, you remember the WWE Cactus Jack?
Yes. I think he's more of a Cactus Jack fan.
Okay.
As I think that's what he prefers. But Paul definitely decided to join us tonight, seeing as he really loves Zolder. And he's clearly showing that it's his favorite track, making a statement tonight as well as last night, starting from the pits and finished 6th, which is definitely well done for him. But the night's not over yet, still 22 minutes left in the race, and he is closing down the gap there on Leroux. So this is definitely going to be a battle that we need to watch for the evening.
Yeah, it is closing down. The C Ruin for the Roosters also got yellow flags, so came off the track down in 17th position. Paul getting a little bit more pace, and I've got to say, flirting big time with those curbs and those track limits. Going and risking it for the biscuit at this point. And do you think running a little bit too close, not helping out in his favor, going and really bouncing that suspension around? And we do know there in Assetto Corsa Competizione, there is a thing called chassis flex, and that is essentially the car starting to take a bit of strain. It actually starts to build up a bit of understeer. Even though you've changed your tires, the chassis itself is starting to show the effects of the race, especially getting rocketed over those bumps at high speeds.
It can definitely have some effect. I know for a fact, from my personal experiences, as we see a run from Paul on the inside, is he going to stick it? He goes for the late break and he hugs that curb, mounts it perfectly as he goes and retakes 3rd. But no, kept the track limits, kept it safe, and he runs wide. That's a good pass from Paul there. But I think from a sim perspective, the drivers, if you keep on hitting the curbs that hard, depends on what your suspensions, how your suspension is set up. Your arms are definitely going to take a knock, especially with very high race curbs. So it might not be the chassis having an effect, but the physicality is definitely going to have an effect, I believe.
Yeah, I know in iRacing we've got where the suspension over time starts to take a knock, and it actually starts bottoming out the suspension more and more, and it will only affect the side that's taken most of the knock. So say you've been constantly running the right front over the curbs the entire time, as we see Tyler Humphries going side by side with Mahayth Musa. That BMW is going to be comfortable around the outside. We've seen it once before. Tyler goes and runs him out very wide, but Mahayth Musa making quick work once he rejoins the circuit. and was comfortable to be on the outside until a bit of paint sharing there, and the Project Vapor car getting ahead. But yeah, back onto it. iRacing does get that suspension wearing out. It starts to bottom out on the one side and actually causes the one specific side or two, where depending on which sides are getting knocked, will actually cause it to lock up a lot easier compared to everything else. I know ACC, they've got chassis flex. They have been talking about, they've worked on the sidewalls of the tires, how the tires have worked out, and starts chipping away at the actual graining of the tires. But hearing that the suspension itself takes a knock, especially running over the curbs, impacting it over and over and over again, especially with this, 18 minutes and 43 seconds left in the race. The last thing you want to do is now start having mechanical parts starting to cause that lack of grip and breaking your race.
Well, Stephen, maybe I just haven't experienced it yet, or haven't paid as much attention, but perhaps it is already in the game in ACC, and I think we might be starting to see it with the release of the Nordschleife next year. I believe they say early summer next year. So perhaps we will be seeing it more and more there, due to the very harsh nature of the Nordschleife. So it might be implemented. I might just haven't experienced it, but who knows? It's definitely something that will spice up racing conditions, you can say.
Well, the tires are definitely taking the beating, but what a beautiful reflection from the lights, and that does show how dark it's getting out there. Even though the track is well lit, our drivers are having to really work a bit harder, that mental focus to ensure you hit apex after apex as it gets darker like this. What do you find? It's in that dusk sort of point of view at the moment from what we can see with the lights. Do you think that's starting to play a little bit of a factor for the drivers to miss out brake markers, make crucial mistakes as
we see a mistake there from the McLaren for Tinas? Just ran a bit wide there.
I think he was trying to get out of the way, and that is Sanjay Pillay and Peter Meyer coming in having to blow. Look like they've had contact, so let's go back 30 seconds. Was there a bit of spice?
Oh, Loic getting involved.
Yeah, that was into Sanjin, and Peter Meyer also coming behind. So Loic trying to stand his ground. He's defending his position. And I think, contact before Loic had the contact. And that might have been Rob van der Heever that was ahead of him.
Rob just not having a good night tonight. Might be the Ferrari just deciding to snap on him, or the Porsche being well known that the rear will just step out on you no matter what. Yeah, that can be a difficult one, but it's really, really tough to see for Peter here having such a great race, and very good for the Omnius Gaming as he just got stuck there. Oh,
nowhere to go.
Yeah,
nowhere to go, and a whole lot of space disappearing. Cabello managing to get by, but Loic didn't make it easy for our drivers. Daniel de Villiers doing everything he can with Paul Fenter coming at him. This is a battle for second position. Both needing to still do their pit stops. Daniel de Villiers needing to do 2 pit stops, and Paul Fenter needing to do 1. Cabello Matsumai, though, is pointing in the wrong direction.
Oh, that's going into the pits there. Yes, I wonder what happened there. Brake failure?
Loic right behind him. Does look on the inside.
I need him, Loic! Oh! That is no... That corner is seeming to start catching people out. Oh.
And
let's hope we can get the car running. The wheel's turning.
Moves the steering back. Don't hear any revs. No, it looks like
the car's still running. It's still got it's still running at 2000 RPMs, but no throttle inputs.
I think he's beached.
Cabello.
I think he's beached.
I'm trying to quickly look here at my map to see where he is.
He's still out in the same corner.
He's beached.
I think he's beached. That car has bottomed out and is now stuck in the sand. He will have to request a tow service to get back into the pits for that, but does have yellow flags in that sector. Loic getting caught out right at the last. Cabello managed to get himself going out of the dirt and now trying to make his way around the course, just feeling out what the car is doing.
I suspect Steven's going to be the same damage that we saw on Sebastian there. The rear is just going to being so difficult to maneuver. But what happened to Paul Fenter?
He's pulled into the pits. Paul's done his last pit stop. Jason McGregor, on the other hand, decides he's going to visit the kitty litter. And that is through turn 1 by the looks of it. Well, not turn 1, turn 2. He was going after Loic Randabal. So Loic once again in the mix of a little bit of controversy. But let's see. I think the Honda just got a snap. It started in turn 1, turn 2. Coming across, tried chopping the nose off of Paul Fenter, but that Merc having a very, very long nose, not a problem, goes and keeps his way through it, but it does look like a retirement from Cabello Matsumai. He has pulled into the pits and getting some work done on that car. Coming off the high of last night to now, it's confidence breaking, but at the same time, my call out to the guys is to ensure you can just get going, that you can really dig deep, rather see that checkered flag no matter what. Do what you can to see the checkered flag. Magic Viver saying, let's go Hybrid Academy, and I don't think you can get a car beached in ACC.
Actually, Steven, I hope I'm incorrect, but it looks like that something might have happened where Cabello might have waited. I don't want to say something, but do
you think he was waiting for the field to come by to ensure it was safe to come on the circuit? That's possibly it, because he's staring down the straight, waited for the cars to come by to rejoin in a safe manner.
But the question is, I see that Loic is also in the pits.
Loic did sustain a bit of a hit. Not once, but twice. So I wouldn't be surprised if that Porsche has cried enough and needing to have a bit of work done to the front end, because it's not getting any pressure on it.
It's quite strange. The system is recording 2 incidents involving Loic Randabal and Cabello Matsumai, so I don't know. It's very. I hope that what the gut feeling that I have is incorrect, but let's just hope Cabello can get back on track. But I think he might have retired.
Well, taking a look, he's still parked in the pits, waiting a long time. Loic Randabal as well. Parked in the pits, so they're busy trying to get themselves sorted. Bago Krobler just getting ahead of Paul Fenter. Paul Fenter trying to catch up now. They are in a race for 6th and 7th place respectively. So Bago Krobler and Paul Fenter have both done their pit stops. They're ahead, trying to push as hard as he can. Peter Meyer going after Mahath Musa at this point, finding it out. And we're just getting word from Loic, unfortunately, having to retire the car from this round. And the team just saying, unfortunately, the car taken a bit of a knock. Rather, let's come back fighting a little bit later. Mahath Musa going and dealing with Peter Meyer, who is all over the back of him. Peter is not backing down from the fight. LaRue now getting involved in it. That's turning into a 3-way battle at the moment. Peter has been quite aggressive in his driving style from the early days, from when he started here in Raceface, and also from what I remember in iRacing, because he actually did a bit of iRacing. He had an aggressive driving style, but at the same time, that worked for him and can work against him. Being piggy in the middle at the moment, do you think the aggressive driving style is going to be of benefit, or do you think it's going to be of negative impact to his race with only 9 minutes and 36 seconds to go and still needing to do one pit stop?
Oh, Stephen, that will be something difficult to really know. Every time I hear aggressive driving style, I think of one driver, a particular F1 driver, who has the same style of driving. And I think that driving aggressive, even though you're in the middle of a sandwich or whatever, you will still be able to benefit from it. You'll be able to pull away from the guy behind and maybe even keep pace with the guy in front of you. So you might wear out your tires, but seeing as there's only 9 minutes left starting now, it might actually be a bit of beneficial instead of letting up and just trying to take it slow.
Yeah, it's going to be a proper little race for the drivers as they fight their way through, trying to get a little bit more forward. Charles Darden also trying to get side by side with Rob van Hever. Rob losing out the drive. Charles Darden making quick work of him, saying thank you very much. Van der Merwe now dealing with Buerta trying to close down the distance. Hansi Maiberg getting ahead of Van der Merwe. So battles up and down through the field. 8 minutes and 23 seconds to go. This is turning into a race for the ages. The guys all trying to push a little bit harder, thinking what's going to work for them. What do you feel is going to be the right idea come the end of the race? Who, you still got a couple of drivers that are needing to do that late stop. Such as Jason McGregor, he's actually needing to do a one stop. Peter Meyer still needing to do a stop, but he's right on the back of Leroux, who has completed all these stops. So Leroux has got everything to lose. Meyer has got nothing to gain at this point, but he is going to push Leroux as hard as possible to try and close down. Then you've got Conrad Volskink, who's needing to do a pit stop. Gideon Reyna. Daniel De Villiers still needs to do 2. There's 6 minutes and 33 seconds. And Daniel Rowe, out of first place, still needs to do 1 more pit stop. Do you think the guys are counting themselves a little bit too close to the end of that pit window, especially with how dark it is, how the fields are closed up on one another, there's battles all out, you will run into traffic on pit exit?
Well, cutting as close as is and seeing how the drivers that already completed all their stops are catching up to those that still need to do it, it's definitely cutting it a bit too close, especially our only last running 2-stop runner, Mr. De Villiers there. If I was able to jump into the comms with him, I would tell him, just box now and then wait until the end.
Just get it done.
Don't risk it. Get it done.
This is a contact. Okay.
What happened? That
was the earlier contact with Loic Randebel and Cabello coming to blows with one another.
Oh, no.
Definitely an altercation between the two. Yeah, we got to see Tim giving us a bit of a shot of it. Well, just to let you know, Cameron, because I don't think you know this. All right, I was actually having a chat to the guys, and we found out a did you know fact of Tim, the cameraman.
What's the fact, Stephen?
Did you know Tim was the test pilot for the jet engine IndyCar when it entered the Indy 500?
I don't believe you, Stephen. Well, that might explain his fascination with the trees, as it was, yes, might have some difficulty focusing on the track after experiencing that.
Well, that's it. But did you know there was a jet engine or a turbine vehicle that was racing in IndyCar, and it was built by Lotus?
I haven't really followed. I only started following IndyCar perhaps last year during lockdown, maybe even before that. Well,
you went and spoke about it. He got himself into the box. Gideon Reyna up behind him. So he's listening to your teammates listening in to what you're saying. So, sorry to jump in there, but just wanted to show you.
I see we also had a retirement for Keegan, Mr. Sanderson, car 121, retired unfortunately with only 35 laps completed, which is also sad, seeing the PWSR Charlie team fortunately retiring Alan with quite extensive damage to the car, and Keegan also. Not sure what happened there, but very sad to see. But no, I wasn't aware that there was a jet car in Indy.
A turbine car is Vessel losing it right in front of Graham Mole. Fortunate enough to take a bit of evasive action there. He's able to get past. And taking a look, Peter Meyer still in the pits and only coming out now. Will be dropping down into 22nd position. And as we can see, McGregor coming out in the little Honda. He's trying to get himself going once again. So, De Villiers, Eric Kirstein, and Daniel Rowe still needing to do their final pit stop. 4 minutes and 3 seconds. But yeah, a little bit of a fun fact of it, did you know? Jaco Hutza, once again, that curb going and showing its might.
Are we sure it was the curb, Stephen? It could be something else. Another car may be getting involved there. As I see an incident was noted for car number 12.
Okay, well, let's see if we can go. Tim, can you take us back about a minute? All right, thank you very much, Tim. And yes, IndyCar had a turbine car, much like F1 had a fan car that was racing. And Chaparral had the dual fan car to suck itself down during the Can-Am phase.
So it's one of those enigma cars, as we saw this year at Le Mans with that NASCAR car going around 24 hours. As we see...
This is Kutza. And...
luckily only alone.
Into the...
couldn't hold it out the wall in time. But that was just a thunk. Again, that curb claiming another victim for the night. Unfortunately, that curb is going to be...
Drive-through penalty for Domingo. Isam Domingo right at the end, 2 minutes and 51 seconds to go with a drive-through penalty. That is not going to work. That is going to impact him and drop him down the list, because if he serves that drive-through penalty, he minimizes the amount of time. That goes down to a drive-through, which is 34 seconds, 33 seconds, okay? But if he stays out and continues the run, he will sustain a 130 to 180 second penalty as Peter Meyer getting boxed in, trying to figure his way through, cuts the curb, trying to get across.
Penalty.
Yep,
Daniel Rowe being involved there.
Yeah, Vessel going and splitting the middle, but Daniel Rowe is stuck in this little fight as Peter Meyer's fighting out with Isam Domingo right on him. Daniel Rowe getting a little bit of a helping. Oh man, this is just getting a little bit hairy, and if I was at Daniel's seat, I would be taking the sweat off my brow at this point, because you have a fight behind you, you're trying to get past Vessel, that's not coming to grips, and it's just not working out. And so close to the end, the last thing you want to have is just a fight of note around you. You just want to clear the cars as quick as possible. As Brutma onto the back of Isam Domingo, who outbrakes himself. He dives into the pits, so Domingo getting himself sorted. And he's going to do that drive-through penalty. Peter Meyer's going to continue to drive. As we just hear Jim saying that our leader, Daniel Rowe, is on his final lap. Bego Krobler will be getting the same thing. Eric Kirstein with another 30-second penalty added
that pit limiter does not want to work tonight, Stephen. But yeah, that's the thing that was also highlighted now with the Domingo and Mara fight there, the Peter Mara fight. Peter should have, in all honesty from my side, just let Domingo go. I wonder why is Darren Miller not having enough fuel, perhaps having to come in terms to just quickly get some splash and dash going on there. But with Domingo having that drive-through,
that car sounded very short on the way to the box. A bit of a splutter on its way through.
Let's hope Daniel has enough fuel, as they are normally running the same strategy from start to finish to keep running together. So let's hope Daniel has enough, as you see him currently in 11th there after completing his stops, dropping him down the field. But it seems that he still has one lap to go. I really hope he has enough fuel, as Daniel Rowe is just going onto the back straight, going into the final chicane.
Yeah, so Daniel Rowe is going to cross the line and take the checkered flag for this evening, and taking a full bag of points home, Second place will go to Bego Krobler if he can keep it all together, but don't count out Paul Venter. 1.2 seconds behind. Does have a chance here. Mahath Musa has also got a very, very close shot to Paul Venter. It's going to be 2 corners to separate it. If the drivers take a deep breath at this point, it can all change. But I think Bego Krobler has got it in the bag. Paul Venter taking 3rd place, putting himself into the podium position. Mahath Musa, hard fought, goes into 4th. Gideon Rayner taking 5th place. LaRue taking 6th. 7th, Tyler Humphreys, as he battles out with Conrad at the moment. Both of them going to be duking it out. 1 chicane to go. Tyler trying to go defensive. And Conrad tries to go around the outside. Couldn't get it all together. Tyler going and stopping it dead on the apex. Killing the driver of that Ferrari 296. And coming across the line. Taking 7th place with Conrad in 8th position. Sanjan Pillay taking 9th. Kerry van Sale will be coming across the line. Taking 10th position. Daniel De Villiers will be taking 11th. And I think just holding a rag to the engine to try and keep it alive. Jason McGregor in 12th. Ruan van der Reist going and taking 13th. 14th is Peter Meyer, Richard van Heerden, Issam Domingo, Jonathan Chrysler, Arno Kraus going and finishing in 18th. 19th, Charles Darden, Graham Bolt, Darren Miller, Wessel Wooder, Altman Boertsma, Eric Kirstein, Rob van der Heever, Maura Circle, Bernard van der Merwe, Hansi Meiberg in 28th, Jean-Ray Buerta, Gerard Pretorius, Jaco Kutzer, Ian Upton, along with Daniel Bourne and Kerry Duplessis. Stop-go penalty for the likes of Pretorius, 32nd, and Eric Kirstein getting a 60-second added to their time as they drop down the order. But what a race it has been out there. Some close action between all the drivers. A bit of a show of respect as well as Mahath Musa just going and lining up next to Bego Krobler saying, listen, well done out there. Good race. You got ahead of me this time. Next time, maybe a little bit different.
Yeah, Stephen, it's great to see all these cars. As it looks like Darren Miller will not be finishing, or something's wrong as he hasn't crossed the finish line yet, but it shows him in the pits. But it's good to see the newer teams and the talent from the lower divisions shining through. Specifically teams from, for example, like Omnius Gaming for Peter Meyer and Gideon Renner. They are very new, taking another shot at the sim racing scene, and it's definitely paying off. So really good to see the unknown teams breaking through into the sim racing scene.
Yeah, no, definitely a huge amount of fun out there, and it does go and leave you from the commentary box taking a look at all the action and going, would have been fun to be there, I won't lie. You know, seeing the competition level being so high for everyone, the guys able to push it a little bit harder, move their way through. You know, I do want to just take a look at some of the highlights. Does look like we didn't have game audio, so once again, do apologize, guys. Looks like game audio didn't pull through. I could hear it, but the stream didn't hear it.
Oops.
Yeah, whoops. Oh, well, that's what happens when you've got everything all over the show. But taking a look at the highlights out on the circuit, take us through your thoughts of this race. We've had highs, lows, exciting moments, teary moments that have gone on. But Cameron, give us your perspective on this matter.
Well, for being for the first time full time in the comms box, it was definitely a race that definitely made my debut very interesting. As we see, it delivered ups and downs, action all across the field, not just a very fail race, but one that showed just how difficult it is. Even though it's a short track, it is very demanding on the driver, and it's up and down, left, right. It's just everywhere. This is, I'm gonna say it, even though I don't really like this track, Zolder delivered, which is what we want from this series. Showcasing the talent, showcasing the close racing, and it's definitely what.
Now that's definitely a point to point out. But Cameron, since you've been in the commentary box, I'm going to let you do the honors of doing our first interview of the evening, and that is with your fellow teammate, Daniel, the Hitman de Villiers, that nearly took out a contract on a driver, but decided not to right at the last. Cameron, take it away with Daniel de Villiers.
Ooh, now you're throwing me really into the deep end, as I've never done this before. I haven't much paid attention to previous interviews. So, Daniel, tell us your thought process during that race. What did you experience in terms of strategy, and just how did the race feel for you?
Well, hello everyone. Yeah, the race felt like tippy toes for me the entire race. I didn't change tires.
So
How did that
my strategy, what I told and what I said, one set of tires we will see happen. Couple of drivers did it, including your teammate. I will now go take our lotto ticket and go win. I'm lucky.
Please share your winnings with us, eh?
Yeah, Daniel, what made you decide to do that call in terms of not stopping for tires and getting the risk in terms of not benefiting from a fresh set of tires?
With yesterday's sprint race, the whole 55 minutes with one set felt really good, and the grip was still there, and all I had to do was just keep calm, stay consistent, doing the consistency lap times, and it will take you to the end.
Very, very exciting. And Daniel, I'm going to ask the very poignant question because your teammate ran out of fuel into the box. Was that a thought going through your head of maybe there was just not enough 93 in the tank to carry you to the end?
Yes, I'll take full responsibility for that. I miscalculated his fuel for the race at the end when he did his last pit stop. So yeah, I'm sorry for Darren.
Oh, no, it was definitely a close one there. Well done on the racing. And, you know, like always, like we always like to do, Daniel, microphone is yours to give any shout out, challenges. You can even challenge your fellow driver that's in the commentary box who's been I won't lie, putting a commentator's curse on you. You never heard it from me.
No,
Can't
don't
hear
lie. That's lying.
you. But you're more than welcome. Microphone is yours. The floor is yours.
Yeah, I think my challenge is to Mr. Tyler Humphreys. I think we have unfinished business. On the quali, I had a mega first sector on the quali, and then I lost it at the chicane. So I could have been with him at the start of the race, but yeah, my shout out to Tyler Humphreys. My challenge is to him for Hungara Ring. Bring it on, man! Bring it on!
Absolutely amazing stuff. A couple of guys might have missed it saying Paul the Wall, missing you, man. Well, I don't think it's Paul the Wall, it's Paul the Pinky Toe Fenter. He's not going to live that down. He did break his pinky toe on his sim rig while trying to climb into it. So, never going to let him live that one down.
Even I haven't broken it yet, but I have injured my pinky toe quite significantly on a screw that's protruding from my rig. So I know the pain that Paul was feeling on a very different level, but it is painful.
It's definitely one heck of a thing. I do want to say a big shout out to everyone. Thank you very much for joining us here at Raceface.Pro for the GT3 series, season 16, round 4. And feel free to hit that subscribe button, leave a like if you're enjoying the content and you're having a lot of fun. Also, leave a comment down in the comment section of what was your favorite livery tonight out in the field before our Pro-Am, and our Am. So you guys get to pick the favorite livery. Let us know in the comments. And I'd like to say a big shout out to the spectators, to the teams, the drivers that all make this possible night in and night out. A very special thank you goes out to our Raceface volunteers that have been joining us. Also to the likes of Cameron, the Sasquatch, the Bastos, who, well, I've got to say, I'm not a big fan of Tabasco sauce, but I'm starting to like you a little bit more. With the voice doing a fantastic job, and from one commentator to another, Cameron, keep up the amazing work. You're definitely on your way to going and being a great caster for any of the esport events and real life racing in the future. Who knows? You've got it. You've got the pace.
I just have a feeling Stephen is saying that, Daniel, so he doesn't have to sit alone in the comments box anymore, eh?
I'll come join you on the track. More than happy, come join you on the track. But no, serious, thank you very, very much. For everyone that doesn't know, Cameron actually volunteered his time last night saying that he would go and join in and be in the commentary box to help support. So massive, massive thank you, Cameron. Really appreciate it. But
It's a pleasure.
being your second time out, I've thrown you into doing an interview. Well, now you get to say the outro to the entire thing, right to the hundreds of people that are watching this currently and in the future. So, Cameron, up to you for the outro. Say it the way you would like to say it.
Gonna channel my inner Steven now here. No, I'm just joking. Thanks everybody for joining. Thanks for joining us here on Raceface Pro. Remember to tune in next week as we go on to another racing series in terms of our F1 as also our TCR championship. But so for the rest of the evening, I want to say good morning, good night, good afternoon. I might have switched that around. And good evening. Have a good race. Good evening and good race, everybody.
Absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much. And make sure you hit the subscribe along with the bell notification icon. Cheers, everybody.